I want to address the practice of seminal retention and transmutation of sexual energy as it relates to men. So this video is going to be most beneficial for men who are interested in or have already begun the practice of seminal retention. As we are coming more into recognizing our patterns, our conditioning around our own sexual energy, it can be very appealing to undertake a semen retention practice, and this is a good thing. It's good that we are starting to be more mindful of how we work with our own energy, our patterns, both with our partners and also for some in relationship to visual sexual stimulation, i.e. porn. And so I wanted to present some perspectives on the practice of semen retention. When we begin to cultivate sexual energy, we're working with the element of fire. Male sexual energy, or sexual energy in general, in Chinese medicine is known as the Jingqi or Qingqi, and this energy is hot. It's very hot, and we know this and can feel this in a very real sense, in the sense that when we're aroused, the arousal is very intense, just like fire. It behaves like fire. When we're in partnership with a woman, and this is what I have the most experience with, Chinese medicine, Taoism, looks at how the polarity of fire and water interact. I'm not going to go super deep into that, but I do want to give some context, at least a baseline of context for the conversation here. Female sexual energy, as we know, if we are heterosexual men, can be very overwhelming, and this is felt most readily with regards to premature ejaculation or any kind of ejaculation or seminal loss from essentially not being in control of our sexual energy. So the Taoists would look at it and say that a woman's water, or the water, can extinguish a fire really quickly. And this is true, because if you have a fire and you pour water on it, the fire usually will go out. When we begin to cultivate, or we begin to hold our seminal fluid and this Qing Qi, we begin to actually contain a fire inside of a space, inside of a container, right? This being the male body. And just like if you were to put something in an oven or you were to put something in a microwave, the intensity is pressurized. It becomes pressurized. And early on in our development, in our practice, that fire and that heat will be contained in the genitals. And several things can happen. One, probably the most common, is that we're going to be overwhelmed with the desire to ejaculate. And we will. Okay, that's part of the journey, is recognizing, maybe it's too late, but recognizing that intensity and observing it and watching it kind of explode out of us or spill out of us, right? This would be the extinguishing of the fire. Now, if we really are trying to cultivate, where we want to engage in intimacy with a partner for longer periods of time, there's only so much of that heat that we're going to be able to hold inside the body. And this is where this sex transmutation practice begins to become very important, right? Understanding how to hold the energy in, pull it up into the body, pull it up the spine, bring it up to the heart, bring it up into the brain, to the third eye, the pineal gland, and to ultimately utilize the energy for purposes other than sexual intimacy, creativity, work, our profession, interactions in general with people, maybe creating more polarity in our relationship, creating magnetism with our reality, also healing the body, which is one of the primary benefits, I would say, of sex transmutation, is utilizing the sexual energy for the purposes of healing. Not only does the Qing Qi, when it starts to flow back into the system, not only is it intensifying, but utilized properly, it can actually begin to regenerate tissue, to make the bones, to make the body stronger. Okay, and that's part of the journey, and that is to be expected, right? But before we do these practices, is something really important that we want to acknowledge, and that's what I'm here to really talk about. And this is the Taoist practice of sinking and ultimately dissolving the physical body. This particular practice, the sinking and dissolving, is most commonly found in what is known as the water method. And the water method presents us with an opportunity to allow the heaviness, the weight of the body, gravitational pull, to draw down energy from the higher centers of the body, the head, the heart, shoulders, the torso in general, and to actually allow it to sink and drain down into the earth below us. Okay, why is this important in relationship to sex transmutation? For most men right now who are coming to the practice of seminal retention, there's a lot of stored inertia in the body already. Another term for stored inertia would be stored trauma, right? Trauma is a very buzzy word right now. It's being used a lot. Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. But we want to start to think about trauma less as a thing, less as a concept, and more as stored potential inside the body. So when we experience intensity at a young age, at any age, that event will trigger response from the body to maintain safety, to keep the body safe. And this happens at varying degrees, but that stored inertia gets lodged inside different spaces of the body. Oftentimes it will be the joints, connective tissue, bones, right? It can store in a lot of different places. If we start to come into seminal retention and we're starting to work with our sexual energy, and we're starting to hold on, and we're starting to retain that Qing Qi, that fire inside the body, in a body that's already pressurized, that's already kind of tense, right? That fire is going to create more pressure. Again, the analogy of putting something in the microwave or cooking something. So if we undertake these practices and we are only holding that fire and we are pulling the fire up into the body, there are undesirable side effects that we might encounter. And there are too many to list here in this video. Some of the side effects that we might experience are anxiety, moodiness, like mood swings, which could lead to outward bursts of intensity, anger, right? Anger is a hot emotion, frustration. And those are just to name a few. The fire can intensify what is already being experienced in the body. The water method is the complementary practice that is often overlooked when it comes to seminal retention. So rather than just focusing on pulling, squeezing, and drawing that heat up into the body, drawing that heat up into the brain, what I personally feel like we should really focus on first as sort of a introductory and foundational practice is sinking and dissolving. And I'm not going to demonstrate sinking and dissolving in this video, but I will talk a little bit about the benefits of that practice and of integrating the water method into a seminal retention practice. So within the sinking and dissolving practice, it could be done lying down, it could be done seated, and it could be done standing. The primary goal, if you will, is to first establish a relationship to the breath. And as we begin to establish a deeper relationship with the breath, we acknowledge and abdicate or surrender the effort of breathing back to the body. So instead of exerting more effort, which could be likened to heat, right? Focusing on the breath in meditation, sometimes we're focusing too much on the breath. And breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, and there's effort required. Within the water method tradition, the foundation of learning to breathe is actually learning to observe the breath coming in and out of the body so that we can begin to identify where in the body breath comes in and out of. So for most men, holding tension in the chest, around the heart, the lungs, the shoulders, the back of the head and neck, we're going to be breathing very high up in the body. Part of the reason why there's so much tension in the upper body is because we haven't developed the depth and the space in the lower part of the torso, in the dantian, which is found and located in the low part, the center low part of the abdominal space. And this is the primary focus of the internal arts, the internal healing arts, the internal martial arts, Chinese martial arts, is to really establish and develop a relationship with the dantian, the low dantian. This is where the alchemical process begins. As we start to form this relationship with the breath, the body will go through waves of softening, right? Connective tissue, so both the physiologic sense of the body and also the energetic fields around the body will begin to soften. Begin to be a little more fluid, a little more pliable. As the body softens, that inertia that's stored in the body, that trauma, right, that stored potential energy that hasn't yet to be released, has been held on to for a long time, will begin to find a way out. And it will be very healthy in the sense that we're not forcing this trauma to release from the body, which can really further create more problems down the line when we get into a habit of exerting effort and forcing that inertia out of the body. The water method presents us with the opportunity to let it go naturally from the body with the body, with the breath, as the intelligence of the system, not I am a person who wants to release or control something. I'm going to actually abdicate control, which is very difficult to do, especially if we are patterned to release the sexual energy in a specific way. Again, porn, one of the elements of watching porn is the control, is being able to control what we watch, the speed and pace, and the environment. There's control there, which is in and of itself a byproduct of early childhood trauma. As we're working with the water method and we're starting to find out that the breath is the primary intelligence by which this stored inertia leaves the body, we actually are creating more space. This is the space that will be utilized when we begin to pull the heat and retain the Qing Qi energy and bring it up into the body to circulate through the body, to heal connective tissue, to expand and create more space in the joints, to then ultimately circulate the energy through the body, rather than pull the energy up into the system and open the channels that way, which should which in some cases we can do that, right? But we have two sometimes competing, but really ultimately complementary practices. One is about downward flow of energy, heaviness in the body, connecting with the breath, focusing the mind and the awareness internally, low inside the abdomen, to expand the sense of space in the body, to root ourselves in the breath, so that when intensity begins to build, we aren't losing ourselves in psychic illusions, maybe fantasies, anything that might be caused by building pressure in the upper centers of the body, the heart, the mind, right? So before we begin to really intensify this practice of like, okay, I'm gonna hold on to my semen, I'm gonna retain the generative force of creative potential and energy in my body, we want to clear the body out. This is really a critical component of the overall path of longevity, the path of refining the body, alchemizing the energy, and alchemizing the whole system. So we're not here just talking about the physical body. We're talking about how the physical body and the physical practice of seminal retention can actually influence how we experience reality. If we are overpressurizing a system that has not yet released trauma, or at least has not established where the root is, then we can retain the seminal fluid, but we won't know what to do with it. And not only will we not know what to do with it, it can overload, overheat, and blow the circuitry within the human body. So I'm going to be doing more videos addressing this water method, but this really is just to bring awareness to the different ways that we can actualize our practice, create sustainable practices, and be realistic about what we're capable of relative to where we are on this path. Thanks for tuning in. Keep tuning in. More to come.